Welcome. In this video I'm going to show you how you can create a stem and leaf display using R. I'm using JupyterLab. The R code should also work in, for example, RStudio. I'm running R version 4.3 and I've just restarted my kernel, so only the packages that come with R are pre-installed. A stem and leaf display is something that will look something like this, where you have stems and leaves. The stems you usually then multiply with some factor. So for example, in this case by 10. So this is actually 20. And then this 3 would indicate that someone was 23. If you have a lot of data, then this might become very long. So then it might not be so clear anymore. But the nice thing is you still see all the data actually that was available. Some put also a cumulative count on the left, some just the counts, and sometimes this is ordered from low to high and sometimes from high to low. Alright, I have a separate animated GIF which shows you how you could do it manually. That's available on my website. But let's load some example data so you can see how you can do it with R. So the student statistics file has some results from a survey among students, and one of the fields in there was age, so I'm going to be using that because it's numeric. So I'm going to select that. I'll remove missing values. There was one student who answered 119. That's probably a typo. It should have been 19, so I'm going to replace that. And then just make sure everything is numeric, and that gives me one numeric vector, as it were. I have a separate video where I show you how you can just use my library that has a function for this stem and leaf display. But there are other libraries that you can use. So for example, R's own graphics library has actually a stem function. So you can just fill out the field and it immediately returns a very basic stem and leaf plot. With the scale parameter, you can set the size. But there's not actually a parameter to set the scale of the stem. So this is actually, if I make this into 10, then you might notice it actually becomes a lot longer. And if I make it to 0.1, let's see what happens. Alright, then it's only a 0 and a 2. So it's a little bit limited, but it works. There's also the Apple pack. Once you installed and loaded that library, you get actually a function stem.leaf, and there you go. That gives you a nice stem and leaf plot, including a count. I think it's a cumulative count looking at it, or it's a count of some sorts. And you can also set some additional values if you like. To change the stems. The hard way, of course, is let's use another example set. So I use in some data. I'll sort the data. I'll get the length of the data, and I'll set my key to 100. And then I'll first create the stem for each value. So I take the value divided by the key and then round it down by using the floor function. So these are all the stems for all the scores. The leaves is then the score minus the stem times the key. So I can do that in one go. And you might notice there's a 6 in there, which actually is preferable to be 0,6. So it has the same length in digits as all the other leaves. So we can use a format string for that. So that's what this one is doing. It should be the length of the key minus 1. And then we can actually just create the leaves but then format it, and as you can see now all of them are formatted, and there's the 0,6. It also means all the other values are now actually also strings. Then we place all the leaves that belong to the same stem together, so we get, and that's what's being done here, if it's the same as for each stem, it simply adds it to a let's say a 2D array. So now we have for stem 1, actually stem 1, so the A is the stem, and then the B is the, nicely shows which values are, which leaves are in there. I actually want all of these leaves not to be as three separate ones, but just as one long string. So that's what's being done here. And here you can see that it now has changed it to one long string. Finally, we can just loop over this and print the results, and that should give us a basic stem and leaf plot. Of course, you can add, if you want, a key and perhaps a title, stem, and then pipe leaves, but hopefully it gives you an impression of how you can create this kind of plot with R. Hope this video was helpful, and thank you for watching.